Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and welcome back to the Depths of Hell. And today we're going to be taking a look at Bamboozling Button Grid. So this is the way the module looks. It's cycling through a series of different displays, which has a series of different phrases. There is, of course, the letter. There is misspelt, and then the word that can pop up, along with an alphabetic letter, and that could be either spelled correctly, incorrectly, or just not spelled at all, and simply have just the letter itself. For example, this Zulu right here is simply just spelled with one character, so that's going to be the letter by itself. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be figuring out a series of through 4 different stages. We're going to be figuring out a series of 4 different presses on each stage. And essentially, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to press all 16 of these buttons correctly. Note that none of these buttons will be pressed twice. They will always be pressed once, and each stage will essentially be getting rid of a series of different buttons. So we're going to be cycling through 5 different stages for the buttons in this case. And this display, this one where both of the displays are blank, is counted as the 5th stage. The fifth count of the colors here, and that is essentially where it restarts. The first display is going to be the first in the sequence. That's kind of the way that you would be able to distinguish the beginning from the end. So, our goal here is to get all 4 of these LEDs on each stage to be green, so that we can get all 4 of these stages on the button to be green. That's kind of the way how these stages work. And if if at least one of them turns red, then we will go into a warning state, sort of. And a warning state doesn't necessarily give you a strike. It just simply gives you a warning that you did something wrong, and it'll tell you which ones you pressed correctly or which one you pressed incorrectly. It'll be red for incorrect and green for correct. It will always tell you which ones are correct or incorrect, and all you simply need to do is figure out which ones you did incorrectly. So if you happen to strike at the warning state though, or if you happen to press a button incorrectly at the warning state still, then that means that it will give you a strike then. However, it does not completely reset the module. It only resets the current stage and will incur a strike. And then the module will return to normal state if the correct submission is made. So for example, for each stage, if you happen to get a warning state but then you fixed it, then you go to the next stage, but you would go to normal mode. And you'd still be able to go to a warning state. So let's keep that in mind. So, today I'm going to be using the original manual. This module is notorious for being long, but not difficult, really. It's not really that difficult of a module. It is a very long and tedious process of which we're going to go through. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting a series of different clues from each of these displays individually. We will be using both of these displays, and we'll get into how we're going to use them in just a second. So, the first things first that we need to do is we need to calculate initial message values, and each message that can appear on the screen contains a letter of the alphabet, like so: Kilo, Quebec. Now, one of the most important things about this module is figuring out how the correct spellings of the native phonetic alphabet letters are, which is located at the bottom of this page here. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Alpha. Keep in mind, Alpha is not spelled A-L-F-A; it's A-L-P-H-A. Keep that in mind. That's probably the one that gets people mixed up the most time. Sierra is not South. I know that some people use South. I know Jeff uses South, but Sierra is going to be the case. That's the way that this works. Pretty obvious. And the rest is just pretty much straight to go. So, if you ever need these resources, the correct spellings are down here, and if there happens to be anything that doesn't match the correct spelling, well, that's the incorrect spelling. For example, that Oscar, it's spelled as Oscar, which is with a Zulu instead of a Sierra, which means that it is the incorrect spelling. So, what we need to do is we need to determine first if the letter is actually spelled out in the native phonetic alphabet, or if it's simply just the alphabetic letter, which in this case that Zulu is, and the Kilo is not, for example. So, if the letter happens to be spelled in the native alphabet, we need to determine whether it is spelled correctly or incorrectly. So what we're going to be doing is let's get the values first. Let's get all of the initial value messages first. I tend to do this. I kind of do it either way. Sometimes I tend to focus message by message. It's a little bit easier to do message by message, but in this case, for this first example, for this first stage, I'm going to get the initial message values, and then we'll get to the second part later. So we have in this first little bit, so we have just Zulu. There's no spelling at all. So the initial value is going to be the alphabetic position of that letter. That's going to be Zulu is going to be a 26, and that's going to be the initial message for that stage. Next up, next one was the Oscar. Yeah, the Oscar is spelled incorrectly, so we're going to be doing incorrectly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add 73 to the alphabetic position of the spelled out letter to obtain the initial value. So essentially we're going to get 73 plus the alphabetic position, in this case 73 plus 15, is going to give us an 88, and that is the initial message of value for that part right there. The word kilo is spelled correctly, so we're going to be now adding 36 to the alphabetic position of the spelled out letter. So 36 plus kilo, which is 11. I expect you to know how the alphabetic positions of this stuff works. I'm not going to go through that too much in detail. So 47 is going to be our answer for that stage. And finally, for the last one on top, it is Quebec. It is spelled correctly. Quebec is 17 plus the 36, because it is spelled correctly, is going to be a 53. And that's the top display taken care of. Now let's take a look at the right side and let's get these values. It's easier to get all the initial message values. Bravo is spelled incorrectly, so that's going to be Bravo is spelled out, but it's spelled incorrectly because we have that hotel at the end. That does not make sense. So we're going to add 73 plus the alphabetic position of Bravo, which is a 2, which is going to give me a 75. Then I believe the next one is the letter X-ray. X-ray is spelled correctly. That's going to be 36 plus 24, which is going to be a 60. Then we have November. November is simply not spelled out, so it's going to be the alphabetic position of the letter, which is a 14. And this one looks like it's a Zulu. It's a very, very weird spelling. See, it can be sometimes very, very weird spellings, but I believe that is a Zulu. Now, one of the other things, there is also a really good optimized sheet for this, which I'm not going to be using, but if you want to use it, be my guest. This is sort of just to confirm that there are the correct spellings and incorrect spellings, which Zulu is indeed Zulu right there. So let's take a look back at this original manual. So that was a Zulu, and it is spelled incorrectly, so it's going to be a 73 plus 26. 73 plus 26 is going to be 99. Okay? And now we have all of our initial message values. So let's get into the second part of this. There's going to be a series of different calculations of which we have to get to our final message values, and that's going to be based off of these different colors that we can see on the displays here. And we're going to be using the display text colors of this little chart here. Note that black is the only one that will not appear. Let's keep that in mind. But the rest of these, white and gray, can potentially appear too. The one that kind of tricks people the most happens to be the difference between lime and green. Now, the way that I consider and differentiate between lime and green is I sort of say that lime is sort of that uglier color, right? It's not really a color that you would sort of appeal to. That first display happens to be a jade. I consider this one a brighter color because it looks sort of like it's going to be closer towards cyan. That's kind of the way I differentiate these colors. It is important that you get that practice, though, but that is sort of why there's a little bit of lenience with the warning state, in case you happen to mess that up. Just to keep that in mind. Of course, there is also the possibility that you just simply won't find a button with these series of conditions, of which you'll get. So let's take a look. So each color has an associated operation to be applied to each of the initial values. However, this is where the letter, the word, and misspelt come into play here. If the message contains the letter, the word, or misspelled, each of these have a series of different rules of which you're going to be simply using the color from. So the letter wants you to use the color of the next message on the same screen. The word wants you to use the color of the current message on the other screen, and misspelled wants you to use the color of the next message on the other screen. So the letter, same message, same screen, next message. The word, same screen, same time, other screen, and misspelled wants you to use the next message, other screen. So that's kind of the way they differentiate them. Knowing those offhand will really, really help you, but again, I tend to just play it by ear. Either way, it's not really the biggest end of the world, and if you happen to not have any three of these, and if it's only the letter used to obtain the initial value, use the color it is written in. Just simply the color that is written in. I don't think we have any of those cases this time around because all of them have some sort of thing at the beginning. So let's jump right into this. So we have the letter Zulu, which is going to be the color of the next message on the same screen. So that's going to be not blue, but it's going to be a yellow. And yellow, we're going to go down to the operation table. And if the initial value is less than 10, you're simply going to add the first digit being a 0, which we don't have that in any of these cases because there's going to be a series of different operations of which we need to pay attention to. So for yellow, yellow wants us to double the number. So we're going to be doubling 26 in this case because that is the first message on the top screen. So 26 times this by 2 is going to be a 52. Next up, we're taking a look at misspelt, which is going to be a cyan, because misspelt is the color of the next message on the other screen, which is right now. So that's going to be a cyan. And cyan wants us to add 10 times the second digit. Now the second digit and the first digit is the tens digit, and the second digit is going to be the ones place. So the second digit, well, in this case, 88, is going to be both one of the 8s. We're going to add 10 times the second digit, so 8 times 10, because that second digit is an 8. We're going to add 80, essentially. So we're going to 88 plus 80 is going to give me 168. Now, if you happen to have if you happen to get more than 100, over 100, or 100 or over, we're simply going to take the last 2 digits of the final value and locate the corresponding cell in this grid below later on. So we're simply just going to take the 68 from this. 68, and we're good to go. Next up, on the third display, it is the word. The word is the current message of the other screen, which should be a cyan again, because that was right there. Yep. So it is another cyan. So we're going to add 10 times the second digit, which is a 7. 7 times 10 is going to be a 70. So 47 plus the 70 is going to give me 117. So it's going to be just 17 in this case. 17, and we're good to go. And for that final display, it is going to be a misspelled Quebec. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting, and this is actually really easy to counter. So if we happen to have on the fourth display a misspelled, which wants you to use the color of the next message on the other screen, or the letter, which wants you to use the color of the next message on the same screen, all we simply need to do is we simply need to loop around to the first display. So the color of the next message on the other screen from this point on would be Jade. That's the way how this works. So Jade wants me to add 11 times the first digit. So 11 times the first digit, in this case 53, is going to be 11 times 5, which is going to be 55. 55 plus 53 gives me a 08 as an answer. Okay, now we're going to move on to the right side here. So now we have, for the first display, we have the letter. The letter is the color of the next message on the same screen. That will be a orange. Orange wants you to add the sum of the digits. So to this, we're going to start with 75. 7 plus 5 is a 12. So 75 plus 12 is going to give me 87. Okay. Then next up we have the letter, which is going to be the next one. So cyan. We're going to add 10 times the second digit, which happens to be 0. So we're not going to add anything. So that's actually just our final value right there. The word N is the current message of the other screen. That's going to be a blue, I think. Hold on, let me double check that. That's blue. That's an azure, excuse me. Azure is sort of a more, blue is a much more brighter and defined. You can actually use blue to actually, on one of these buttons here to really get the differentiation. Whereas azure is sort of the more held back one, I guess. Azure, in this case, wants me to add twice the sum of the digits. The sum of the digits in this case is a 5, because 1 plus 4 is 5, and it wants us to add 10, so it's going to be a 24. And finally, for that last stage, for the last one here, it is going to be the word, which is the current message of the other screen, which in this case, if I recall correctly, it is a white, or it might be a gray. I have a hunch that that's white. I think gray is a little bit darker, so that should be white. So white wants me to do nothing. That's cool. So now we have our final values, and now what we're going to essentially do is we're going to take the last 2 digits of the final value, and we're going to look up a series of different cells to get some conditions to press some buttons. Wow, that took me a while. So we're going to get 52. 52 is going to be 1, 2. And I'll explain what these mean in just a second. 68 is going to be 6 and 8. And row for 10's digit, column for 1's digit is going to be R5. 17 is going to be a R2. 08 is going to be a R5. 87 is going to be a R4. 60 is going to be a yellow 3. 24 is going to be a yellow 5. And 99 in the bottom right is going to be a blue 2. So now, what exactly do these mean? So we have 1, 2, R5, R2, R5, R4, Y3, Y5, blue 2. Essentially what these mean is that for each of these positions, in this case the first column, so 1, 2, and then R4, what we need to do is we need to find a button that has red at 4, and what these numbers mean is we need to have a series of, we need to have both 1 and 2, the positions of the buttons that are flashing, be the exact same color. So when this ends, we need to have 1 and 2 be the exact same color. Let's see if we can find an example of what I mean. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I am actually having a little bit of trouble finding an example. So 1, 2. So for example, take this one down here. Take this green, for example. This isn't the button we're going to press. 1, 2. Those two greens were at the exact same stage when it ends. 1, 2. Those guys are the exact same color on the flashes of 1 and 2. So that's what that means. And we need to find the color that contains a red 4 as well. So there's always going to be 2 conditions for each button press. And that's essentially going to help note down our options, because there's a lot of cases of which you could have a 1, 2, or a red 5, or a red 2, for example. So let's look for a 1, 2, and a red 4. I tend to look for red 4 because that actually helps me eliminate quite a few options, because of that being a specific value. So let's take a look around and let's see what we can find. So red 4 is going to be between these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I believe I have our guy right here. So we have 5, then 1, 2, both of them are the same, 3, 4, and red is a 4. So this means that this is going to be our first button press right here. Because of the fact that the flashes of 1 and 2 are the exact same, they're both red, as we can see right there, and then red is also 4. That works. So now, here's where I'm going to essentially draw out our grid here. So let's graph this little 4x4 right here with all these X's. So we're going to simply mark this one, Bravo 1, as a 1. So next up, we're going to look for a yellow 3 and a red 5. Now what I tend to do is I actually tend to look for the red 5s first, and then I see where the yellow 3s are. So we've got the red 5s right here, 3. I believe we have a couple options right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These both could actually work right here. Now, what this also could mean is that there could be a specific condition. For example, there's another red 5, but there's a blue 2 that we have to pay attention for. Let's see if we can actually figure out if there's a difference. 1, 2. There does not appear to be a difference. So we can simply just choose this first one, alpha 3, as the red 5 and yellow 3. So that's going to be button number press 2. And now let's see if we can find red 2 and yellow 5. A couple options here. I believe we can take this one right here. So 5 is yellow, 1, 2 is red. That would work. So we can choose that for number 3. And now for red 5 and a blue 2. Okay, there we go. 1, 2. That works right there. Because we have 5 at red right here, and 1, 2 blue right there. So now we have our 4 button presses. Let's press them in order. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. And just like that, all 4 LEDs were green. The buttons all turned gray for a second to essentially reset and create a new sequence. The LED now up at the top right in the status light turns green, and it will essentially let you know which stage you're currently on. So now we do this all over again. But now, here's where the catch comes into this. Remember what I said beforehand, is that we need to press all 16 buttons in some way, shape, or form. So what this means is I'm going to mark these guys with a D to let you know that I'm done with them. And that means we're simply never going to look at these guys again. So that's just a sort of little helpful way. It definitely makes looking around a lot easier, especially since you don't have to look at all 16, you only have to look at 12 now. And essentially what's going to happen is for each stage, you're going to decrease by 4 until you're left with 4 on the last stage, and then you'll be good to go. So let's take a look at this next sequence here. And I'm actually going to go through this a little bit faster because of the fact that this takes a while. But hopefully you have an understanding of how this module actually works, and let's get rolling. So now we have the first word is a delta. Delta is not even spelled out at all, so it's just simply going to be using the initial value of the alphabetic position. So we're just going to mark that as 0, 4. Then the letter November. November is spelled out correctly, so that's going to be adding 36 to 14. So 36 plus the 14 is going to be a 50. Then the letter Bravo. Bravo is simply not spelled out at all, so we're going to be using the initial value of the alphabetic position. That's going to be a 202. And then Charlie was spelled out correctly. That's going to be a 36. So 36 plus the 3 is going to be 39. Okay. Next up on the right side, we have Echo spelled out correctly. That's going to be 36 plus 5 is going to be a 41. Yankee is simply not spelled out. That's going to be just a 25. Uniform is not spelled out. That's going to be 21. And Mike is not spelled out. That's going to be 13. Cool. That was actually rather quite easy. All right, now for the final message values. Let's figure this out. So let's see what we have here. So we have Delta. This is sort of the uglier color that I was referring to. This is not green right here. That's sort of that lime, that ugly color that I was talking about. Since we don't have any of the letter, the word, the misspelt, we're simply going to be using the actual color of this text right here, which is going to be a lime. Because there wasn't any of this in the messages at all. It was simply just the letter D. So, or, you know what I mean, delta. So, we're going to add 5 times the difference between the digits. So 5 times the difference between the digits, difference between 4 and 0 is 4. So 4 times 5 is going to be 20. So we're going to simply add 20, and that's going to make it 24. Then next up we have the letter November. The letter November is the color of the next message on the same screen, which is going to be a white. So white is simply wanting us to do nothing. That's cool. Then the letter B, which is the next message on the same screen, which is an orange. So we're simply going to add the sum of the digits, which is simply going to be 2 plus 0 is 2. That's simply just us doubling it, so that's going to be a 4. And then finally, I believe it was just Charlie by itself, so that's going to be just orange. We're simply going to add some of the digits. 3 plus 9. 3 plus 9 is going to give me a 12. 39 plus the 12 is going to be 51. Okay. That's our final values for that bit taken care of. And then let's go over to the right side. The letter Echo. The letter next message, same screen, which is a cyan, I believe if I recall correctly. Yep, it is a cyan. It was the color of the next message on the same screen. Just to make sure. Yep, that's cyan. So we're going to add 10 times the second digit. So cyan wants us to add 10 times the second digit, which is a 1. So it's simply just going to be us adding 10, which is going to be 51. 41 plus 10 is 51. The next up, misspelled Yankee. Next message on the opposite screen. So that's going to be an orange right here. So now for orange, we're simply going to add the sum of the digits. 2 plus 5 is a 7, and then 7 plus 25 is going to be a 32. Next up was the letter U. The letter is the next message on the same screen, which is I believe it's a rose. Yeah, it's a rose. So rose is our next message on the same screen, which is add 11 times the second digit. So that simply is a 21 plus 11. That's going to be a 21 plus 11. That should just be 32. Yep, it is indeed. Okay. Then next up, we have, let's go to the fourth display, the word Mike. The word, color of the current message on the other screen, which is orange for that stage. So we're going to add the sum of the digits. It's going to be 1 plus 3 is 4, and it's going to be 13 plus, it's going to be 13 plus that 4 is going to be a 17. Okay. So now let's take a look at this little guy here. Let's go 2, 4, 5, 5, 0, 2, 3, 2, 3, 0, 4 is a green 1. 5, 1 is going to be a red 5. 5, 1 is going to be a red 5. Perfect. 32 is going to be a green 3. Green 3 again. 17 is finally going to be a red 2. So there is one last thing I forgot to mention. If the cell happens to be red, yellow, green, or blue, the button must be given at the color at that given step of the cycle. And one last thing. The button must be the color given by the first condition at the step of the sequence after the step is given by the first condition. If the second condition contradicts the first, the second condition is replaced with the following. So this is exactly what I mean by this. So we have this yellow 5 and this red 5. Well, we know for a fact that that's going to be impossible to get. So what exactly do we need to do with this? The button must be the color given by the first condition. Okay, so it's got to be a yellow. at the step of the sequence after the step is given by the first condition. So essentially we have a 5 here. Now, 5 is actually the last part of the sequence, so all we simply need to do is loop around and make this a yellow 1 instead. Normally, if it was, for example, a yellow 2 and a red 2, for example, what we would essentially do is we would change it to yellow, since that is our first condition right here, and we would simply make this a yellow 3 instead. That's sort of the way how this works. So that happens. It's a very rare case for that to actually happen, but it does happen actually quite often. So just keep that in mind. That is probably one of the most important things that you can make sure you don't miss. And now, let's actually take a look and see what we can find here. So we're looking for a yellow 5 and a yellow 1. That actually should be pretty darn easy to find. So 5, 1, right there. That actually would work right there. At Charlie 2, 5, 1, right there. That can be number 1 right there. Now we're looking for 2, 3, and green also has to be a 3. So what this essentially means is that green is going to be 2, 3, and green has to be 3. So we need to look for a green 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. We have actually quite a few options down here. So I believe let's take this one right here. So let's do 2. And now what we want to do is we want to look for a green 1, 3. So let's wait for the sequence to end. 1, 2, 3. Like that. That actually works right there. It's going to be number 3 at Charlie 4. And finally, we need to find a red 5 and a red 2. So let's take a look around. So we have 5, 1, 2. I believe it was this one right here. I think we can do this one. 5, 1, 2. Like that. That's perfect. All right. And now that we have our four button presses, let's do that. So we have Charlie 2, Bravo 4, Charlie 4, Delta 3. Ooh, okay, so apparently I messed up one stage. So it was apparently this stage. So let's figure out what I did wrong here. And now the LEDs will change yellow, which is currently in a warning state. So let's go back to let's go back to the condition 2. So we do have 3 of the 4 button presses correctly. So let's figure this back out. So let's take a look. We have the letter November. The letter November is the color of the next message on the same screen. And remember, we had November being correctly, so it's going to be correctly was adding 36. 36 plus the 14 is going to be 50. The letter represents orange. Orange wants me to do what? Add the sum of the digits. That's going to be a 55. I'm starting to feel like something's different here. So 5 plus 0 is going to be 55. Confirm it was spelled correctly. November was spelled correctly, so it's going to be 36 plus the 14, which is going to be a 55. Okay, that makes sense. 55 wants me to do blue 3. Okay, I already see a couple of big differences here. Yeah. All right. That definitely makes more sense. So let's take a look at the second sequence on the right. It is a misspelled Yankee. So Yankee is simply not spelled at all. That's going to be starting with 25. And misspelled wants me to use the color of the next message on the other screen. So that's going to be an orange. So orange wants me to add the sum of the digits on the display. So 2 plus 5 is a 7. And that's simply going to be 25 plus 7 is going to be 32. I feel confident with that one. Yeah, okay. 32 for a final value is going to be a green 3. Now, this case actually contradicts itself. So it's going to be a blue. Blue 3 is the first condition, and green 3. We're gonna have to switch this. So it's going to become a blue 4, because it's going to be the same color as the first sequence, which is blue, and it's going to be the next step in the cycle after the 3, which is going to be a 4. So let's find a blue 3 and a blue 4. So let's do 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. This Bravo 1 we've already actually pressed, so we're actually not going to be looking at this one at all. Let's take a look at some other ones though. 2, 3, 4. That one works right there. So let's get rid of that 2. Let's mark you right here. That should make sense. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that matches up. So let's do a 1, 2, 3, 4. And just like that, we are back in normal mode. The LED is now on display turned green, and we shall move on. And now let's mark all of these with dones. Whew, good catch. See what I mean by this module can be a little bit tricky? That totally wasn't staged at all. Okay. So now, we're currently at our halfway point right now, and this is kind of where things get a little bit easier since we've already got half of our options eliminated. And as you can see, I was picking through that a little bit faster, but that's kind of the way that I want you to go about this. So let's take a look at this next stage. We have the word Romeo. Just make sure I am recording. I am indeed. Okay, good. So we have the word Romeo. Romeo is spelled correctly, so that's going to be adding 36 to 18. So 36 plus 18 is going to be a 54. Oscar is simply spelled by itself. That's going to be a 15. Lima is spelled correctly. That's going to be a 36 plus the 12, because that's the position of Lima. That's going to be 48. And finally, for the last one on top, is going to be a delta. That's simply 04. Now, looking at the right side, a couple easy ones, it seems like. Ooh. That's a weird one. Equax. I'm not quite sure what that one is. It might be a Quebec, for all I know. Let me take a look at the optimized manual, and let's see what this one is. Oh, okay, so it was an echo. Very, very weird one, mind you. So it's an echo. So echo spelled completely incorrectly is going to be a 73 plus 5 is going to be a 78. Then next up, we have misspelled F, which is simply going to be 06, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's not spelled in the phonetic version. And then we had uniform and Juliet. Both were not spelled at all either, so it's going to be 21 and 10 respectively. Okay. Now for the colors. So let's get into this. We have the word Romeo, the color of the current message on the other screen, which is going to be a magenta, or violet. It's magenta. Yeah, okay. So magenta is going to be right here. Magenta wants me to subtract twice the number from 100. Ooh, okay. So 54 times this by 2 is going to be 108. And subtract twice the number from 100. So it's going to be 108. So 100 minus 108. I believe we just make it into a positive number, if I'm correct. Let's take a look. So it doesn't say, but I'm under the assumption that if it's a negative value, negative, no. I think it's gotta be this case. Subtract twice the number from 100. It's gotta be, yeah. So we'll simply mark this down as -8 or simply +8. 08. And of course, I'll take a look at that later. If we happen to get it wrong, then we'll know exactly where it is. So that's perfect. Alright, next up. We simply have Oscar, that's in white. White simply wants us to do nothing. Perfect. Then we have the word Lima, same message on the other screen. That is going to be a white. Do nothing. Cool. And then we had that red for Delta. Red wants us to add 10 times the first digit. The first digit is a 0, so you simply are going to be doing nothing. Wow, cool. Alright. Then next up, let's take a look at the right display. So that's going to be a magenta. There is nothing else to it. There's no letter, no word, or misspelt. This is going to be a magenta. Subtract twice the number from 100. Okay, so we have to do 78 times this by 2. Is going to be 156. So 100 minus 156 is -56. Again, I'm under the assumption that it's going to just simply be making it positive, so that should be good. Then then misspelt F, I believe it was. So that is going to be the blue display, because that is misspelt is the color of the next message on the other screen, which is this one. So that's going to be blue. Blue is double the number and add 1. So it's going to be taking the 6 here, making it 12, because that's double. And we're going to add 1 to that, being 13. Then we have a white uniform. That's going to be doing nothing. Love that case. And then the word J, the word color of the message, current message on the other screen, which I believe was a red for that last display. It was. So we're going to add 10 times the first digit. So 10 times the first digit is simply going to be 10 plus the 10, because 1 is our first digit, so 1 times 10 is going to be a 10. 10 plus 10 is going to be a 20. And just like that, we should be good to go. So let's take a look, and let's convert these into our final values. So 0 and 8 is going to be red 5. I hope this is right, because it doesn't mention anything about negatives. 5 and 6 is going to be red 2. There is a possibility of there being a red 5 and a red 2. I can see that right there. 5, 1, 2. So that looks like that's good to go. Then next up, 15 is going to be 4, 5. And then 1, 3 is going to be a blue 3. Okay. And 48 is going to be a 1, 4. 21 is going to be a 34. It's going to be 3, 4. That's actually a really good one right there. And then finally, 0, 4 is going to be a green 1. And 2, 0 is going to be a red 4. Alright, no contradictions here. Now, this 1, 4, and 3, 4 might look like a contradiction, but however, all it simply means is that 1, 3, and 4 are going to have the exact same color. So that's perfect for us. So, we're good to go. So let's take a look here. So we have 1, we're looking for a red 5 and a red 2, so let's take a look at the red 5s. It has to be one of these two. 2, and just like that, it's that one right there. So that's going to be number 1. Then next up, we're looking for a blue 3 and a 4, 5 being the exact same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have we selected the delta 2? We have not. Just make sure. 1, 2, 3 for blue. 4, 5 are both yellow. That's perfect. So that's going to be number 2. Then next up, 1, 3, and 4 are going to be the exact same. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's take a look around here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. Taking a look at this top left one, at alpha 1. Once it comes back to 1. So 1 is red, 2 we don't care, 3 is red, 4 is red. Bingo. That's our guy right there. That'll be number 3. And now we need a green 1 and a red 4. So we need a 1, which is going to be a green. So we need to figure out which one we don't have that we haven't pressed yet. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one works right there. And we haven't pressed it yet, so that's good to go. Just to make sure, we were looking for a green 1 and a red 4. 1 for the green, 2, 3, 4 for the red. We're good to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press Bravo 3. We're going to press Bravo 3. Excuse me. We're going to press a Delta 2, Alpha 1, and Bravo 4. And we're good to go. Now we're on to the final stage. So we know for a fact that there are going to be only 4 buttons that we're going to be looking at. It's going to be Bravo 2, Charlie 1, Charlie 3, and Delta 1. It's going to be between these 4 buttons to which these last conditions will be based off of. So let's take a look, and let's see what we can get. So, the word alpha, this is spelled incorrectly. Incorrectly is going to be 73 plus 1, which is going to be a 74. Then next up we have letter X, simply not spelled. That's going to be a 24, because that's an alphabetic position. India spelled correctly. That's going to be 36 plus 9. 36 plus 9 gives me 45. Yep. And Bravo is going to be spelled incorrectly. It's going to be a Bravo spelled incorrectly. 73 plus 2 is going to be a 75. And taking a look over at our right side, wow, that's a really easy one. Sierra is spelled incorrectly. Because that was an alpha instead of an echo at the 3rd position. So it's going to be spelled incorrectly. So 73 plus the 19 is going to be 92. Romeo is spelled correctly, so that's going to be 36 plus the 18 is going to be 54. Oscar is spelled incorrectly, 73 plus the 15, 88. And then Papa, spelled correctly, 16 plus the 36 for the spelled correctly. Yep, is going to be a 52. Okay. Now, for the final values, let's take a look. We can actually do the right side really, really easily, because all of these actually don't have any starting like messages, like the letter, the word, or misspell. That's actually perfect. So we can do orange for Sierra. So for orange, we're going to add the sum of the digits. It's going to be 9 plus 2. 9 plus 2 is an 11, as you can see here. So 11 plus 92 Taking the last two digits is going to be a 0, 3. Romeo is red. Red wants us to add 10 times the first digit. 10 times the first digit is going to be 50, so 50 plus 54 is going to be 0, 4. Then next up we have, I think it was the ugly color, it was yellow first, and then I believe that is a lime. Yep, yellow. We're going to double the number, so 88 times this by 2 is going to be 176, or simply 76. And for lime, we're going to be adding 5 times the difference between the digits. 5 times the difference between the digits. 5 minus 2 is going to be a 3. 3 times 5 is going to be a 15. 52 plus 15 is going to be 67. And this is going to be our final values right there for the bottom display. Now let's take a look at the top. So we have, for the first one, we have the word current message on the other screen for the first one. That's going to be an orange. Orange is going to be adding the sum of the digits. 7 plus 4 is 11. 74 plus 11 is going to be 85. Then the letter for the next two. So the letter is going to be the next same screen, next message. So it's going to be a cyan and then a purple, respectively, or violet. Cyan for the second one. We're going to add 10 times the second digit. 10 times the second digit is going to be 40, so 24 plus 40 is going to be 64. Then next up, the letter is going to be after violet right here. The letter, the next one is going to be violet. Yep, violet is the purple, as we can see. And we're going to add 8 times the difference between the digits. 8 times the difference between the digits is going to be 5 minus 4 is going to be a 1. 1 times this by 8 is simply going to be adding 8. So 45 plus 8 is going to give me 53. Okay? And then finally for Bravo, that's simply going to be the exact same case for Violet, because there is no the word, the letter, or misspelled. So 8 times the difference between the digits, 7 minus 5 is going to be 2. 2 times 8 is going to be a 16. 75 plus the 16 is going to be 91. And now we have our final values. So let's take a look at the bottom here. So we have 85 is going to be a green 3. 64 is going to be a 3-5. Don't worry about the order that I'm doing this. I really don't care. 53 is going to be a green 1. 91 is going to be a green 4. Or, yeah, 91 is going to be a green 4, yep. 03 and then 04. 03 is going to be a Bravo 5. Or blue 5, excuse me. 04 is going to be a green 1. 76 and 67 is going to be 76 is going to be a 1-3. And then 6-7 is going to be a green 2. Checking for any cases that don't make sense. That looks good. Okay. So we need to look for a green 3 and a blue 5 between these specific locations. So we have blue 5 and a green 3. I believe it's U. 5 for blue, 1, 2, 3 for green. Beautiful. That's going to be the first one right there. And now we need to look for a green 1 and a 3-5 being the exact same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one works right there. That's going to be number 2. So 1, 2, 3. This one also works for green 1 and 1-3 being the exact same. 1, 2, 3. That works right there. And our last one should make sense. Should be a green 2 and a green 4 for a Charlie 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That does indeed make sense. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we have our final answer. So we're going to be pressing Bravo 2, Charlie 1, Delta 1, and finally, to end this module and say goodbye to this tutorial, we're going to be pressing a Charlie 3. And just like that, my friends, is a solved module. It says, nicely done, you did it, and the buttons have a spasm. They start to freak out, and just like that, my name is Crazy Caleb, and just like that, stay crazy, stay cool. Don't play this module normally because there is a optimized version which makes your life so much goddamn easier. Stay crazy, stay cool, once again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.